Hi there again. This week we're going to take a somewhat deeper look at the Constitution. Last week we looked at the basic structure of government it created. This week we're going to try to look at uh, the goals and philosophy that was behind the creation of that structure. And we'll begin with looking at the historical events surrounding the creation of the Constitution. What were they actually trying to achieve? What did they think was wrong with the former Constitution? And how did they think they were creating a new system of government that would be an improvement over our former one? And this is relevant to what goes on today, as we'll see that many of the debates over whether or not we should even have a new constitution back in 1787 continue on today with how we think this federal government should operate. After we look at really the origins of the writing of the Constitution, the debates over the writing of the Constitution, we'll look at the ratification debate. After the group of men wrote a constitution, they submitted it to a wider group of voters to approve. And this again led to a number of debates over the nature of our federal government and that was going to be created by the Constitution and whether it was a good idea. Part of what you'll be looking at is one of the essays that James Madison wrote in defense of the Constitution, and this is known as Federalist Paper number 10. The lecture will give a summary of it if you did not already read it and do the optional extra credit assignment on it last week. But you'll sort of see that Madison, along with some of the other authors of the Constitution, were really worried about how far they could go with this so-called democratic experiment. They feared what was often at the time referred to as tyranny of the majority. Today we might simply see it as mob rule. How do you give the people the vote and not have chaos and disorder? There's only a limited amount of trust they had in self-rule. And so they created a republic, which we talked about. Federalist Paper number 10 explains some of the nature of that republic, because not only did they create a republic, they created this federal system, which allowed the country to grow to enormous dimensions that we have today. It was big at the time they created it. It was still like bigger than any European country, just the 13 states. And now our 50 states became really one of the most massive states, certainly the most massive democracy the world had known up to that point. And of course, the larger the country, the less the voice of the individual. And so that is something we can still talk about today. And that ties into the final part of the lecture, which is a closer look at our federal system. The division of power between states and local government, which gives the individual slightly more say per person, say, than the federal government, our national government, which each person's individual voice is obviously diminished amongst greater number of voters. How do we draw those lines between what the states should be able to control and what the central or federal government should be able to control is still an ongoing controversy today. And so we'll look at how both conservatives and liberals have divided initially on this issue and how that debate has changed to today, and even going into the Trump era and debates over the Affordable Health Care Act, marijuana laws, as well as, what was the third one? Gay marriage. So good luck. Enjoy this week's lecture, and we'll see you again.